Welcome into another edition of the Gig'em 24/7 Sports Podcast. I am Andrew Hattersley, joined by Brian Perroni. He's back from a little trip with his family. Brian, how's everything been going? How was the trip?
Oh, it was good. A lot of fun. Get away, have celebrate some birthdays in Mexico. I know there were some rumors of my demise. They were greatly exaggerated. So back, ready to go. Went straight into camps last week, and then baseball this weekend and official visits this weekend. So this is actually sort of a crazy time. Wish my sisters would have waited until July to have their birthdays, but I had no choice over that.
Yep.
So, yeah, man. But, it's just been nonstop since coming back. Pretty crazy times going on in Aggie land.
Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks for the A&M staff. Obviously, June is a huge recruiting month with camps and official visits. Going to be a dead period later this month that runs through the third week of July. So a lot of kids coming in for visits as they kind of look towards summer decisions and getting it out the way before their senior year is over. We'll touch on all that with the camps from last week. There's another week of camps to go. Another big group of official visitors coming in this weekend, including Harris Sewell and Texas A&M commit Colton Thomason were a few of the others. And then another one who took an official visit earlier this month is Jaden Rashada, and he has a decision coming up on June 18th. Had a little busy stretch of visits last week. He went from Texas A&M to LSU and Florida before heading out to Vegas for what turned out to be a pretty huge 7-on-7 event, the OT7 7-on-7 event. And his decision is coming up on Saturday. Brian, the feeling with him, it's kind of a weird recruitment because there's a lot of schools that seem to get into the mix late for him, A&M and Florida being two of those after A&M lost a commitment from Eli Holstein. But A&M and Florida have both been able to put themselves squarely in the mix. I know you and I have both heard that those are kind of the two schools that have really jumped in and kind of pushed towards the front for him. He'd obviously be a huge addition, and he really likes A&M. He likes A&M's history of quarterbacks, specifically Jimbo Fisher with Jameis Winston, and had a really good visit down to A&M last week. And I mean, the sense I get is A&M has very much put themselves in the mix and is pushing for him as well.
Yeah, Rashada, so much has changed with them in such a quick, such a short amount of time. When A&M first offered, it looked like he was Ole Miss or Oregon. That's what everybody's talking about, Ole Miss or Oregon. Now, while both are still in it, especially his brother, who's a 2022 junior college recruit, just committed to Ole Miss and is headed there, so that helps them. But they also have taken another quarterback. But Ole Miss and Oregon is who people are talking about. Now people are talking about A&M and Florida. So, there's been that change, two completely different teams in a short amount of time. So he's committing on Saturday, and I would not, just sort of following his process. It's been a little, it's been a roller coaster for sure. There's been a lot of ups and downs. A&M fans haven't really seen it much because he's a new offer for A&M, but, there's just been a lot of just crazy movement in there. So I wouldn't be willing to put anything in stone just yet, but I do think that both the Aggies and Gators are in good position. Like you said, he visited both. He also visited LSU in between the two. LSU, I think, probably ends up getting Dante Moore out of Detroit. They seem the front runners there. So, if you peg Dante Moore there, that leaves, at the A&M and Florida spots. We said Ole Miss already got the commit from Marcel Reed, a 4-star out of Memphis. So, that leaves the Aggies and the Gators sort of in good shape, with the quarterback rooms looking in good shape for Rashada. But again, things could change completely overnight. And even after he commits, you never really know. It seems like this decision was made and then a lot of official visits scheduled right in a row right before it. So, that's a lot of information to get before trying to decide.
No doubt. And that's the thing. And I know Miami's been mentioned in the mix there as well, but kind of the sense I get, unless he's able to get back there this week for some sort of visit before he makes a decision, kind of feels like they're kind of trailing behind as well. But that's another school that even earlier this spring generated some buzz. It's a good break for A&M on this front that when you look at a guy like Rashada, it didn't really hurt them coming in late because a lot of other schools were kind of also in the same boat. And so when you look at A&M, they were able to just almost explain, and I know this was something the family mentioned that they really appreciated, is just receiving the explanation that they had Eli Holstein committed and therefore weren't pursuing any other quarterbacks. And so that pretty much answered that question right then and there of why they didn't offer and pursue him. And so that question was cleared up pretty quickly. And, you know, he seems to be a really big fan of College Station, and mentioned he's keeping an eye on it even before he had the offer. So, but Florida is very much in the mix there as well. They've certainly built up a good relationship with him. He's been there multiple times. And so, you know, it's going to be interesting. And like you said, it's going to be one where, you know, the decision kind of, you know, he's kind of crammed in a lot of visits pretty quickly. His dad says he's ready to make the decision. And so, you know, I think you obviously you'd rather have him in the boat and try to keep him rather than try to go the other way around.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's always better to have him get committed. Yeah,
and then go from there. And you know, A&M. I know the other question that people seem to have is having Dante Moore scheduled for a visit the same time as Jaden Rashada is scheduled to, you know, decide. And so I think the thing that people kind of forget about that is A&M is probably going to have a pretty good idea ahead of the decision what Jaden Rashada is going to do. And so there's no harm in scheduling a visit. And then if you have to adjust later down the line, you can always do that. But, you know, I think A&M is obviously going to have an idea before June 18th what's going on, and then can kind of adjust their plan accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, so Rashada and his family will meet this week, and, you know, it gets out. They call coaches, you know, you tell them, you tell other schools. So, yeah, they'll have an idea because, yeah, Dante Moore, I believe it's an unofficial visit that he's got scheduled for this weekend. I mean, that's a huge, you know, top 5 national player coming on campus. And even if they get Rashada, you know, heck, take 2 really good QBs. There's no limit in this class, and you know we know Jimbo Fisher likes to take a ton of QBs or take a ton of players in each class. You know, if he's taking the limit every year and there's no limit this year, who knows what he's going to do? You know, it could be nuts. But so let's say Rashada goes to Florida or another school. So then A&M fans can say, who's next? Obviously, Dante Moore is the guy right now. He's supposed to be in town this coming weekend. Notre Dame thought they had him in the bag. Not so much. You know, they went ahead and they took a 5-star from the 24 class in CJ Carr that probably ruled them out of the sweepstakes for Dante Moore. LSU's in good shape, but A&M is looking to knock it out of the park there on that visit. But another guy that we've talked about a lot, fans may not have noticed this development, but Austin Novosad from Dripping Springs, he's an A&M legacy, committed to Baylor. He picked up an Ohio State offer recently at camp, and then went back this past weekend on an unofficial. You know, he's got his official, on an official this past weekend. He's got an official to Baylor. A&M wanted him to camp, you know, but they've seen him before. They saw him last year in camp. They've, you know, there's been video of his workouts and stuff like that. So I think he, you know, to camp, you know, I think he wants that offer. So that's another guy to watch if Rashada chooses otherwise, because if they want to end the Novosad sweepstakes, it's going to have to happen soon, you know. So, so yeah, those are the 2 to watch. I think are Dante Moore and Austin Novosad, and yeah, the Ohio State thing may have, you know, I think caused a lot of programs to be like, oh, you know, maybe we need to check out this kid a little more because he's really good.
Yeah, he is really good, and I think that was kind of an interesting development. And when he went on that visit to Ohio State, kind of said, okay, I'm going to have to kind of come back and think through things and think about what I want to do. But no doubt, I mean, if you miss out on Jaden Rashada, you got to pivot pretty quickly. And I think they have a good idea about what they have in Austin Novosad. And obviously he came down on that visit earlier this spring. And so I still think A&M would have a pretty good chance there if they were to extend an offer, but you're right. It has to happen soon because other schools are also in the mix and taking note. And he's going to be a backup plan for a lot of guys. And
I think he's going to end up being a primary plan for some schools.
I think he's going to be a primary guy. But once people figure out what's going on with Moore and Rashada,
yeah, those are the 2 dominoes that need to fall. So once the Rashada domino falls, that's going to cause, you know, schools, you know, the schools that don't get him to look to, and then when Dante Moore falls, that really will cause a bunch of it because there's a lot of schools are sort of all in on Dante Moore. So that's going to be, you're going to see a lot of really popular QBs after that for sure.
And I think Rashada, I think Novosad will be right at the top of that list because he's obviously performed really, really well at Elite 11s, and everything that he's gone to has really kind of shined. And so he's going to be a great option for somebody. And, Baylor's got him committed, and he obviously really likes Baylor. And so.
Yeah, he'll be there this weekend on his official there. Correct. Oh, so talking about Dante Moore, we talk about that Message Board Geniuses account. I know we're both fans of that. So Notre Dame's commit that they just got, the 5-star from 2024, is CJ Carr, who happens to be Lloyd Carr's grandson. Lloyd Carr was a legendary longtime coach of Michigan. So I believe some Michigan fans think, okay, this is like 40, maybe 5D, 60 chess here. They think Lloyd Carr knows that Dante Moore is better than his grandson. So he sent his grandson to Notre Dame to make sure that Dante Moore ends up in Michigan. So that's the mental gymnastics that we got now. So in case you didn't know, Lloyd Carr is making sure Dante Moore is going to stay in state.
He's pulling the strings.
To go to Michigan by getting his younger grandson to commit to Notre Dame, sort of screwing his grandson in the process if he thinks that Michigan's a better school, and also, saying, hey, Dante's better than you. So yeah, man, I love it. I love Message Board. I love that Message Board Geniuses. We did make it, I think, a couple weeks ago.
They've made it a couple times. There's some gems on there. When you start seeing them, they hunt down and there's certain posts now that I kind of see come across, and I'm like, oh, this is just prime picking for Message Board Genius.
Oh, for sure. And you can tell some of them that they use are like, clearly joking. But the Lloyd Carr one, I think somebody really was thinking that out. Like, oh, I bet this and this. I picture the guy drawing on the, the beautiful mind drawing on the board. So yeah.
Chestnut
Dante Moore to Michigan because of CJ Carr. That's you heard it. Well, you heard it on the Message Board first, and then from me second, like Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky quote,
Paving the way for CJ Carr to be the quarterback in Notre Dame in 2023. That's all Lloyd Carr was kind of thinking about. Early playing time. He thought, I'll just take care of the early playing time myself. I'll just take that option out. Sticking with visitors from this month, there was also another couple of big visitors in town the past couple of days. The big news was obviously beginning on Friday during camps. Hakeem Williams showed up and was escorted in by Jimbo Fisher on the golf cart.
We saw him. We're like, hey, who's riding in Jimbo? If nobody's ever been to camp, I think we shared some pictures, but Jimbo Fisher has a really nice golf cart. It's got a front seat, a back seat, speakers, all kinds of stuff. And he just drives around from station to station, sort of checking out the top recruits. But if there's a recruit in town, they'll be in that golf cart with them if they're not working out. So as soon as he drives into the indoor facility, we're like, all right, we got to find out who is that in the back seat. And wasn't hard to figure out. Like, Hakeem Williams sticks out. He's he came in at 6'2" and 3/4, 200-pound receiver. He sticks out. So it wasn't hard to figure out who that was then. But just funny, just riding in there in style. And you're like, okay, top 50 national recruit. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot. And, I know we remember this from last year, but when Bryce Anderson showed up and he kind of got the golf cart treatment around the entirety of the camp. I remember we were kind of talking about that, about, kind of seeing how Jimbo Fisher kind of operates, have him right in the front seat and get your VIP spot as you kind of go around to the different camp stations. Now we have learned, don't get in his way because that cart's moving whether you're
Oh yeah. He threatened some of us jokingly. We were in his way. Like trying to take video. So you weren't around for the Kevin Sumlin era, but Kevin Sumlin used to take the swag copter, the helicopter out to different recruits games, and for a while it was undefeated. Everybody he took on the swag copter, A&M landed, or everybody took the swag copter to see. So we got to check to see, right? We got to remember who we had in the golf cart last year and this year, and see Jimbo's record with golf cart visitors, how he does.
I believe you're right. I believe so. I know for sure one was Bryce Anderson. I believe I believe Cam Dewberry might have been in there once he had worked out at a camp. I believe he might have been in there too.
Yeah, probably so. Well, I'll have to go look at the notes from last year. Yeah. We'll see how Jimbo's done with his golf cart visitors.
I feel like it's pretty good. I feel like he's up there in terms of high percentages. but it's a big deal getting him back in on another unofficial visit. I mean, that's huge in terms of he came for the spring game. Obviously, really likes A&M. Was met by several members of the staff just pretty much as soon as he rolled in, and so I think A&M is probably in good position to get him back on an official visit as well.
Stop me if you've heard this before. Do you know where he's going this coming weekend on an official?
Who?
Georgia. A&M and Georgia have had a lot of battles. A&M had a Georgia commit, had a long-time Georgia commit once again on campus for an official this past weekend in Cottrell. So Raymond Cottrell, receiver. So it'll be interesting. He's also Akeem Williams also has a Pitt official visit schedule. You don't really see that. But Pitt has done well in South Florida, so get a kid from Fort Lauderdale isn't out of the question.
Go figure too. Andy Jean is another one that he's got a Georgia visit coming up as well, and was just on A&M's campus for an official visit this weekend. So you're right, A&M and Georgia. There's obviously a ton of overlap there.
I mean, Georgia just had Jamal Jarrett, who is then now coming to A&M on an official, so they're just switching kids.
Sadir Mitchell's another one.
There needs to be an Athens to College Station, just like direct flight for recruits and coaches, because A&M keeps stealing their coaches and support staff too. So just put that direct flight in there.
Just put it down there. Just have a couple flights every Friday. Just have them going back and forth.
There you go.
And another one that A&M had in town for another visit, and you and I have talked about this quite a bit, and is Tony Mitchell was back for another visit. He's been on campus a ton of times. It's obviously not close to
three times. It's the middle of June. He's been on campus 3 times. He's come all the way from Alabama, paid his own way because he was there for an unofficial in January. I think it was a junior day, but if not, it's just then he was there for the spring game, and then again this weekend. He'll be back for the pool party at the end of July, and then he'll be back for an official visit in the fall. So that's 5 visits from a kid from Alabama, from Alabaster, which is just outside of Birmingham, a suburb of Birmingham. That's 5 visits he's made. So I'd say he's pretty serious. 5-star from Alabama.
And the other thing I would note is these visits are not just one day in and out. They seem to be Friday to Sunday, kind of unofficial visits.
Yeah, I believe all 4 of them that he's made. Well, so he's made 3 this year. All 3 of those have been weekend visits. Last year he was last summer he was at a camp. I'm not sure how long he stayed, but so that's a lot of time spent in College Station. Get to know the current players. I'll tell you what, the current players, they really like Jimbo Fisher and they like the staff. We hear them talking out there at camps to recruits and to players and just among each other. And they, Jimbo Fisher, when you see video of him coaching at practice, he will ride players. I mean, he'll get on you. He's a tough coach out on the field, but off the field, he really is a player's coach for sure. And that's what they'll say to a T is, they can go to him, they can be real with them. He's his door is always open. And so you do have current players just talking up the program and they like the future of the program. And so that really helps when he's spending time, when Tony Mitchell and other recruits are spending time with them.
No doubt. And, even going back to last week and when I caught up with Miles McVay, to your point on this, he talked about his host was Antonio Johnson, obviously a former high school teammate. Asked him what Antonio Johnson had told him about A&M, and he said, there's a standard when you come here. There's a standard at practice to compete, to get after it. But then, Jimbo Fisher's obviously going to be there, is kind of a fun guy and the program has a lot of fun too. But when it's time to go to practice, it's time to compete, and there's competition for playing time every single day. And there's a standard that you have to meet. We've heard that standard mentioned a lot, but to your point, I mean, the players really rave about just getting to play under Jimbo Fisher as well. And that's a huge key when you come on visits, is hearing from those players. You get the true sense of what a program is like from them and being able to go through that on a day in and day out basis. So to your point, they really do stress what it's like playing under Jimbo Fisher.
And people are impressed with the facilities too. Who was it you talked to? So
Miles McVay kind of.
A&M's got some of the best facilities in the country, or the best. And it's like, so why are they tearing them down? It's like, that's how committed they are. And I did actually, I heard that from quite a few kids that were coming to camp, being like, man, this is really nice. And it's like, well, just wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
We saw the indoor track. They've already started clearing that out, and that's going to go on. Then I believe we heard the new facility is supposed to start being built right after the LSU game this year.
Correct.
So, right. Or maybe after bowl practice, depending on the timing there. But so A&M won't be able to use the indoor during the spring because it'll be being built. Yeah. But yeah, then it'll be, around after that a lot bigger and everything. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because they do have some of the best facilities in the country, and they're only adding all those other things.
Yeah, and it was Miles McVay that said, "Yeah, what do you need new facilities for? These already looks." And Dylan Evans said the same thing. Well, these facilities are pretty sweet. And speaking of Miles McVay too, he also had some fun with Jimbo Fisher about asking him about what the media thinks of him, and then said, you're definitely not what the media portrays you to be. You're a lot more fun and nice than the media portrays you to be.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I remember Jimbo's first year, ESPN they went to one practice. I don't remember which game it was, but they just went to one practice and showed clips. I was like, man, dude, he is intense. And I was like, how does he recruit well? Like, but yeah, there's an on and off switch on that. Now, you and I saw Steve Adazio not only this spring, but in camp. I'll tell you what, he's not a guy that's going to hold back because a kid's a recruit. He's going to, even these kids, these 3-day campers that are paying hundreds of dollars, they're getting, these offensive linemen are getting the true A&M experience with Steve Adazio. It's pretty awesome. But
there's no off switch. There's no off switch.
Not at all. I mean, some of these kids are like 8th graders, and don't you loaf around him. You better do drills right the first time too. But we heard some of the current offensive linemen, sharing about him with other people and saying he was the same way as Jimbo Fisher is. They really like him off the field. The on-field personality is different than Josh Henson, so it takes a little bit, some people to sort of get adjusted to that. But they all just talked about how much they did like him, and that he's approachable and all that.
It imprints a culture there. They come to practice every single day with that sort of attitude, and so it starts there. Speaking of the camps, there was some other official visitors in town as well we're working to catch up with, including Harris Sewell and Jaden Chapman, and get the latest from them as well. But A&M has brought in a ton of offensive linemen over the first 2 weeks of camp and has more.
Yeah, they're going to have some decisions to make there. We've talked about a receiver. Receivers basically Jonte Cook, Hakeem Williams, maybe Andy Jean, but there's not too many like surefire. There's a lot of really, really talented players, and A&M is going to have a chance to be picky. Yeah, Adam Hopkins coming this weekend. Offensive line's the same way. They, Harris Sewell, I think, is a take no matter what out of Permian, and I'd say A&M and Clemson, back-to-back visits are the two leaders for him. A decision soon wouldn't be too big a surprise, but after that, it's just going to be. Who I don't know, man, who impressed them the most, just talking and hanging out on visits. I really don't know. I mean, they're bringing in a lot of offensive linemen.
Yeah. Guys like Chase Basantis, we would think would be definitely a take for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Like past that, they're going to have some decisions to make. And, guys like Connor Stroh has a decision coming up. And, I know Jaden Chapman wants to decide before the season starts as well. And so, that's probably going to get figured out over the next month or so. And then looking at the camps, obviously that's been going on for A&M. Wrapped up their first day of camps last week. I think the guys that really caught our eye were, I know you got a good look at Daniel Cruz. He seemed to have a really good first day there. And then, the buzz on Friday was all about Torrey Blaylock, who had a really, really good day. So did Kobe Howard, who just picked up an offer from A&M last week. Dakias Brinkley is an interesting guy. I know you had a story on him Monday morning. He's a guy that looked maybe a little stiff at linebacker, and then once they moved him to edge, though, it seems to be like the perfect spot for him to just come off the edge and has a good get off, can get after the passer, and there's a lot of tools to work with there. And obviously Freddie Debose is another guy that's seeing his recruitment take off.
Yeah, so not as many offers, at least through 1 week, went out this year as last year. But also last year, kids hadn't been on campus. They hadn't been allowed to take visits anywhere in like 2 years. So they were hitting as many camps, unofficial visits as possible. Remember, we did a thing. A&M got over a third of every 5-star in the country, made it to campus just last June in the 2 classes in 2022 and 2023. Made it to campus, and a lot of them for camp. This year, not as many of the national names are making it. I don't know if they're just not pushing as hard. I think we should see some more this coming week, but I think only there were 3 offers on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday, and I think just 2 on Friday so far. There'll probably be more, but still, a lot of good talent. Dakias Brinkley, like you said, he plays defensive end for Seven Lakes. He's going to move to linebacker this year, so you can tell he's new to linebacker. But his dad, Jasper Brinkley, was an NFL linebacker. A&M liked him at both spots, linebacker, end, and sort of offered as an edge. He's going to be a real intriguing player to watch. When you compare a kid to somebody from the same school, it's sometimes a lazy comparison, but I think he is a lot like David Agwebu, who was a big A&M target a couple years ago. Eventually, A&M took some other guys at edge, and Agwebu ended up at Oklahoma and is now playing linebacker for the Sooners. Was also from Seven Lakes, and is probably actually a pretty good comparison for Dakias Brinkley. And then, Freddie Debose, really fast kid. I mean, they test after practice, and it's a relatively slow turf. He ran a 4.55, which, would have been probably, low 4.4s if it was before and on a faster track. Good player. It struggled with his hands a bit, but you just can't coach his speed and size. Yeah. And then another kid with NFL bloodlines is, like you said, Torrey Blaylock, 2025 running back from Atascocita, had a great day. I mean, you could just hear the coaches raving about him throughout the drills. So he picked up a couple offers after that. Also, Dakias Brinkley picked up Texas right after A&M, so they're all noticing what each other are doing. So A&M sort of not afraid to offer kids. Dakias Brinkley came in with 3 total offers. I think Texas Tech was the only Power 5 one, and A&M wasn't afraid to offer. They're not afraid to extend these. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this coming week. I think the 3 camps this coming week will be a little more talent laden, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and the other guy we have to mention, I know, didn't get a chance to really meet with Jimbo Fisher on Friday. Caleb Beasley, the cornerback out of Tennessee, had a really good day, and so it wouldn't be a shock to see him get an offer.
No, that kid was really good. His school is where Trent Dilfer is the head coach. His quarterback was also there working out, but he had a great day. Had some good matchups with Kobe Howard. So he probably will get offered. And Clemson offered the day after he was at A&M. So if Clemson offers a kid from sort of near them, they've done their research and the background. So that kid's too good not to get one at some point. But I think he had said Jimbo had an emergency come up on Friday, so they weren't able to meet. But he understood that. So it wouldn't be a shock to see one come.
No question. And he's certainly getting to talk to him after the camp on Friday. Certainly enjoyed his experience and enjoyed getting to work under TJ Rushin and DJ Durkin as well. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back after the break, we're gonna talk a little Texas A&M baseball, who are heading to the College World Series in Omaha following a sweep of Louisville over the weekend. We'll talk about that and plenty more coming back after this quick break. Welcome back to the Gig'em 24/7 Sports Podcast. Brian, the remarkable turnaround of Texas A&M baseball continues. This time last year, Texas A&M not only didn't even saw their NCAA tournament run come to an end or streak come to an end, they didn't even make the SEC tournament. Now, 12 months later, under Jim Schlossnagle in his first year, Texas A&M's heading to the College World Series after beating Louisville in the Super Regional this weekend. Undefeated so far in the regionals and super regionals. Will now be heading to Omaha, and it's pretty incredible. It just continues to be pretty incredible what they've done, having to rally from behind in a lot of these games too, and just
I think what's 5 postseason games so far. So A&M and Ole Miss are the only teams that are undefeated, I believe. They're the only teams that are undefeated in the NCAA tournament play. Ole Miss had 2 shutouts of Southern Miss in their super regional, whereas A&M has had to rally in every single game. And yeah, it's just this team. They are never out of it, and that's not something we've seen from A&M teams in the past. It's just completely different. And not only are they not ever out of it, you're always sort of sure, like, okay, they're going to pull this out. Like it's if they need to win, they're going to win. And it's like, fans notice that, game stories go up really fast right out of the games. I write them as they're going, and I rarely write a lead like that. Oh, A&M lost. I was like, I'll either leave it blank or I'll be like, I bet they somehow pull it, and I'll add the, add the line about how exactly they won on whatever walk-off it was.
But it's incredible. And, even looking at, the regionals, going back to that, the resilience against TCU and the way that game, the swings of that game and how they were able to respond. TCU scores 4 runs an inning, takes the lead, home run here. And this past weekend, the swings with Louisville when things weren't going right at all times. And
you're gonna be persona non grata in Kentucky, by the way. Though they are very, with you saying Louisville, like it's Louisville. I don't know, but I was like, I've gotten yelled at before.
Oh yeah, but I went there a couple of years ago and kind of got an earful about that. So I know they
changed the name of the spelling
on very particular about that.
Yeah, I don't call it a Louisville Slugger. Well, maybe I do. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. And just however it comes off. You see, I've always got the thing I can just say it's my South African accent.
Oh, that's true. Yes, you're right.
That's always my.
That's how you learned it. That's how you learned it in Jayburg. How to say Louisville.
Louisville, yeah, that's my go-to out on those situations. Yeah. And the other impressive thing to me about what A&M's been able to do, Micah Dallas has been solid enough, but they haven't really even had good starting pitching throughout these weekends. They haven't had
good starting pitching since like mid-season or mid-SEC play. It was crazy because the beginning of the year, all we talked about is how bad the bullpen was and how good starting pitching had been with Dallas and Detmer. And then it was awful the second half of SEC play. And, with Moo Menifee coming in, Jacob Polish coming in, those guys were just automatic. And we saw that again this weekend. Brad Rudis had a almost 3-inning save, true freshman out there. So yeah, the bullpen has been lights out. And when if the bats just do enough to take a lead, the bullpen has been really good. And it's just funny because that was such a liability. I think Menifee's ERA is still not great, even though he has been like incredible the second half of the season.
And I mean, just what he's had to do specifically on Menifee, the turnarounds that he's had to be able to pitch when he's been able to pitch has been pretty impressive. I mean, when you look at even the regional weekend, throws 51 pitches, and then 2 days later, he's coming back to pitch again and give them more. They have just stretched this bullpen as far as they can possibly go. And I know it was after the game against TCU, they asked Jim Schlossnagle about Monday night, and he was like, I don't know what we would have done bullpen-wise.
Yeah.
Because we're not built right now. We don't have starters going deep enough right now.
No, and it's basically just those 2 guys.
And so it's just, I mean, the amount of guys that have stepped up, and they at some point they're going to need big time starts out of Detmer and Dallas. I mean, it's got to happen if they really do want to advance in Omaha. But what this bullpen's been able to do up until this point is just pretty incredible.
Yeah, and I actually, when I said that Brad Rudis got this the save, he didn't. I totally discounted a huge storyline from the weekend when Polish came back in with a 3-2 count, and a man on in the second game, and just shut the door on him. I mean, just to bring a guy in with a 3-2 count, I mean, that's ridiculous. And just that Schlossnagle was willing to do that, and then that Polish loves getting in jams, but is great getting out of them. But this time he already came in the jam, so yeah, he did a great job of digging out of that.
He was all. I mean, yeah, he's able to stay calm, and you're right. I mean, Jim Schlossnagle talked about that 3-2 count bringing a guy in is a bit unconventional. but he mentioned the swing before. I didn't like the swing they had on Rudis, and so it was time to just go get him and make that decision right there. And he's made some big time decisions. The virtually every pitching decision he's made so far has worked out. And I think the other noteworthy thing, defense was a little better this week, and it was awful during regionals.
It was bad during the SEC tournament as well.
Just the amount of teams that could just bunt for a base hit and what it ended up. That's half the problems that ended up being created for Detmer is being able to field his position. And Jim Schlossnagle kind of talked about that as well, is pitchers just being able to field their position and kind of creating jams for themselves. But just in what this team's, and you look at guys like Troy Clonch and what he has meant to this team to have the walk-off hit on Friday night. They've just provided such a veteran presence, and the timely hitting has been, I think they were hitting over 600 at one point during the regionals with 2 outs. It's been pretty remarkable what they've been able to do offensively and score just enough and come up with just enough timely hits to be able to do it. And, where this team was picked to begin the year, this has got to be one of the best coaching jobs in America this past year.
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, like I said, the fact that they're one of 2 undefeated teams in the postseason, took care of business at home. Yeah, none of the games were really pretty, but all they do is win. So it's going to – and what do we think about their half of the bracket in the College World Series? It's going to be interesting. So you got A&M, Texas, who was ranked number 1 for most of the season – or much of the season. A&M beat them, in the game. I just saw that the odds came out, and Texas is actually now considered the favorite to win the College World Series, but they're up there. And then you got A&M opens against Oklahoma, who is red hot. A&M hasn't lost a series since early April. Oklahoma hasn't lost a series since early April. Sooners are red hot. And then Notre Dame, who just happened to knock off one of the best teams in college baseball history in Tennessee. So two of the teams in that top part are unseeded, and one A&M is the only top 8 national seed in their half of the bracket, but it's still really tough because those other teams are red hot.
Yeah, so Oklahoma is a real difficult draw because and I know Sam kind of talked about this when we had him on to preview the bracket. Now we talked a lot about Tennessee that weekend because we kind of figured Tennessee would be in this, but that was kind of a stunner to see them go out in the super regionals. Talked about how Oklahoma was going to be a big threat in this tournament and how probably a little bit underseeded based on what they did the latter part of the year. To me, Texas A&M and Oklahoma are kind of the 2 big challenges. I mean, Texas, was able to get by East Carolina with wins, 2 wins to close out the weekend after dropping the opener. But I don't think there's 2 teams playing as well as Oklahoma and A&M are right now. Though, is A&M flawed? Yes, sure they are. And, but they've proven to be able to find a way. And, there's a quick hook on starting pitchers, and they're just going to ride this bullpen as far as they can possibly take them. Wouldn't discount Notre Dame either. You can't discount Notre Dame after what they just did to going on the road and beating Tennessee. It's a really tough bracket.
I mean, and Notre Dame, everybody expected them to get a national seed. So, it would have been an upset if anybody would have beaten Tennessee. But I mean, it wasn't like Notre Dame was just this terrible unseeded team. Right, I mean, they should have been one of the top 16 seeds. So yeah, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with if A&M ends up playing them. But just the thought of, hey, if things hold to whatever, the line probably has A&M as a favorite over Oklahoma, and then Texas, if they could, who had the Aggies and the Longhorns facing off in the College World Series before the year? Like nobody. When they played mid-season, I mean, A&M won, but Texas still stayed number 1, and A&M was not even close to being ranked. So yeah, nobody expected a rematch in Omaha.
No, that would be a heck of a rematch just with everything on the line. It's gonna be a really fun weekend. It's going to be awesome to kind of see, and I think A&M fans are frankly just going to soak up being there, because I don't think they could have imagined at the beginning of the year getting there under year one of Jim Schlossnagle. I know there were a lot of positive signs at times, but I think fans kind of understood, this might take time to get going, but boy, it's happened a lot quicker than anybody could have absolutely imagined. So, just closing out, Brian, what do you think? We talked about this at the beginning, right? After the SEC tournament, what do you think A&M can do now that they got to Omaha? What do you,
I said then I think they could win it, because of the fact that they're so resilient. And so if you get through the first half of the bracket, or if you get through your half of the bracket in Omaha, then it turns into a best of 3 series. A&M hasn't lost a series since those Alabama Auburn back-to-back ones very early in SEC play. They've shown they can win series against people. So I mean, the ceiling is the roof. Was that like a Jordan quote? No, but I think they can win it. It's also a tough bracket. There's a chance of 2 and done too. I mean, that's not out of the question. I think I don't think that'll happen. But literally any of those 4 teams could advance to the final, and any of them could win the whole thing, and it wouldn't be a shock. Yeah. And then you have the other half. I mean, Stanford is just raking home runs. They hit 8 home runs and a loss on Saturday, and then a guy hit maybe one of the longest ones I've ever seen yesterday when I was watching it. If they make it, I mean, ridiculous. Oregon State. Texas is a power hitting team. I mean, Ivan Melendez could break the single season home run record, at least in the BB Core era. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of runs scored in Omaha. So it's, A&M has proven they can do that. So if A&M's bullpen can come on and sort of shut down the others, and A&M can eke out the runs and get a few home runs of their own, it's going to be, it could play really well in their favor.
Yeah, I think A&M is clicking right now up and down the lineup in terms of guys that they can turn to. It seems to be a different guy every single time stepping up. Obviously, Jack Moss has been tremendous this postseason. Troy Claunch has been great. Dylan Rock, Austin Post. I mean, even Jordan Thompson. How about him? The way he stepped up the latter part of the year, hitting a game-tying 2-run.
Everybody expected the 8-hole hitter to come up with that 2-run home run, and hadn't been able to get any offense all night. So yeah.
How about him coming up and stepping up in a huge way? So it's going to be a fascinating week, and I know A&M fans will have a lot of fun kind of watching that, and we'll be here next Monday to break down another big week of camps and visits. So be sure to stay tuned on the site. It's going to be a big week as things kind of pick up. Also, ahead of the Jaden Rashada announcement on Saturday, we'll have you certainly covered with all the latest there. If you like these videos, be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube to get a notification every time a new video arrives. Listen to us on Spotify and iTunes as well. And if you like our podcast, be sure to give us a 5-star review and give us a rating on there, and hit the subscribe button on there to get notifications as well every time a new podcast drops. Enjoy this week, A&M fans. It's going to be a fun one. We'll have you covered with a lot again on the board and on the site. Looking ahead to Omaha and everything on the recruiting trail. So with that, take care, and everybody have a great week.